Now let's back up. I want to pinpoint something. You said that there are other agencies that need to have more cuts. Which agencies specifically are we talking about?
Ones that have been in the news quite a bit that have been targets are the Commission on the Arts and the Historical Commission. There are functions that are necessary from the Historical Commission, but that could be done by those few duties could be done by others. On the Commission on the Arts, it is not a matter of being against the arts, but what we have seen over the last few years is the private sector doing a much better job than the state has been able to do. You've had new performing centers, performing arts centers built in Dallas, in Houston, in San Antonio, in Austin here, with no money coming from the state. That was done by the community, it was done by the private sector. And so when government gets out of the way, then communities and private sector take care of the needs, particularly in that area. So I'm not saying they don't do anything worthwhile, because certainly they do, but it will be picked up by the private sector. As we've been looking at the budget, one of our measuring points for our staff at Texas Public Policy Foundation has been, what would happen if government didn't do it? Would private sector pick it up, or would there be disastrous results for the citizens of the state? If the answer is that the outcomes would be very bad, then we need to just look at better ways to do it. See if there's any more efficient way to deliver that service. But there are so many things like this Commission on the Arts that if the state didn't do it, it wouldn't go away. Communities and private sectors take up the charge, and they begin delivering those services, generally much more effectively than state government does.
Well, I know we've had like fine arts students and fine arts teachers up at the Capitol, and they would disagree with you on something like that.
Of course, each one of us have particular interest in certain things, and that's what government's all about, is listening to the concerns of everyone and trying to prioritize then the needs of the state. And it's a formidable job that the legislators have this time. Tough choices have to be made, priorities have to be set, and there are always priorities. There's never enough money to fund everything. As I would tell my colleagues, particularly in Health and Human Services, if you fully funded at 100% all of the needs today, when you open the doors tomorrow morning, there'd be another 100% that would have to be funded. So you just have to try to establish the best system that you can to take care of the most needs that you can in that particular area, and do it in a way that's responsible with the taxpayers' money.
I know when you were talking about those two specific agencies, especially with the Texas Historical Commission, that was one of Governor Perry's recommendations to cut out or at least suspend in his own budget proposal. But it looks like the House budget proposal now is going to fund something like that.
That's correct.
Do you feel like maybe lawmakers, even those Republican lawmakers on the committee, aren't listening to some of the governor's suggestions?
Well, they all have their own interest, and they have their decisions to make, and they have to represent the districts that they're elected from. So there's always give and take. There'll be a big difference between the House version and the Senate version, and then the governor will have his own ideas about it. And so that's what this, as they call it, sausage making is all about, trying to come to consensus of what the priorities are for the state's budget. But I do believe that the governor will hold strong on his promise to the people of no new taxes, to live within the available revenue. So it's a matter of what has priority over which other area. And take advantage of the opportunity to reform and to become leaner and meaner, hopefully not meaner, but to become much more efficient with the money that's being spent. And there are ways to do that. In 2003, I had a major reform bill that consolidated 12 health and human services agencies down to 5. Now we're recommending one more, that there's one agency that could be consolidated to squeeze out a few more dollars in savings for direct services. So there are always better ways to build a mousetrap. The society's doesn't stay the same. We're not the same in 2011 that we were in 1911, and so our government needs to change also.
Talk about that agency that you said needs to have a reform, consolidation.
That is it's called the Department of Assistive and Rehabilitative Services. It's primarily is a pass-through for federal money, federal programs, and there are not going to be huge savings there, but there will be enough savings that we need to do that. Those functions can be easily taken up by another agency and just reduce the size of the enterprise a little bit more, of the Health and Human Services enterprise. So, in 2003, we say that we picked the low-hanging fruit. So now they have to go a little higher in the tree and take a lot more smaller savings to help make up the shortfall that the state's facing.
What could that consolidation of that specific agency do for the budget?
We're still working on getting the exact numbers for that. But even within the existing agencies, there are, we believe, opportunities to reduce the bureaucracy, so to speak. What we've discovered is that there are some agencies that may have 5 or 6 departments within that agency, and each one of them may have their own IT department. Well, that can be consolidated and money savings there. I'd like to talk just a little bit about another of our recommendations, which is to change the way that the budget is laid out to the people. What we feel is that it is not transparent. You cannot go to the budget right now, which is called a performance-based budget, and really see what all programs are funded under each one of the strategies, as they're called. And we have found that not only can the people, the citizens, not really understand the budget, but neither can most legislators. There are many programs within each one of those strategies. So if you know of an inefficient or no longer needed program, many times you can't find it in the budget to be able to recommend eliminating that particular amount of money. We propose changes to that, perhaps a zero-based budget where you have to build it back up each time. But let's just get it more transparent so that the people can take a look at it and say, we don't need that one and we do need this one, so let's take that money and spend it over here. Let's rob Peter to pay Paul because we think Paul has more need for our citizens.
Have you ever had a family member or a close friend that was in a nursing home?
I have. My mother was in a nursing home. Fortunately, she was able to be private pay. Nearly reached the end of that, but we've had those tough decisions as well. And one of the things that's taken a little bit of pressure off of the nursing home has been the home health, the community care, which is about 2/3 the cost of nursing home. So there's a place for each. There's a place for the skilled nursing when you need 24-hour nursing care, and there's a place for the care to be delivered in the home at a lesser cost. So we need to make sure that we have both systems in place to take care of our population.